Om Stapakaya cha dharmasya sarvadharmaswarupini avatara varisthaya Ramakrishna te namaha Sudhismati Puranayam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So we have completed, I think, the first sutra, Adhyasa, and the first sutra. Now we are beginning the second sutra. The second sutra also has got this Vaiyasika Nyayamala, so Bharati Tirtha. So the statement is this: Lakshanam Brahmano Nasti Kim Vasti Puravaksha Nahi Vidyade. Then Janmadehi Anyanishtatva Satyadescha Aprasiddhitaha Brahmanishtam Karanatvam Sya Lakshim Srut Bhujangavad Laukikaniva Satyani Yakhandam Lakshayanti. So Bhashyam begins like this: Brahma Jijñāsidavyam ityuktam. Brahma Vicharaniyam iti pratigna. Pratigna is the preposition. So a preposition is made Brahma Vicharaniyam, the pratigna krita. Brahma Jijñāsidavyam ityuktam. That is, Brahma is to be thought about, or vichara kartavya in that sense. So somebody raised this question this morning. It's very important to understand that jnatum ichha is only the language, but in the Advaita context, it is vichara kartavya. We do vichara only. So it's called Brahma vichara. Kim lakshanam punastad Brahma. What is that lakshanam? So lakshana pramanabhyam vastu siddhi. That is the nyaya. Lakshana means what is the vastu surupa, the exact nature of Brahman. And what is the lakshana? Lakshana means for nischaya. So there is an akshepa here. Lakshana bhavat Brahma na jijñāsidavyam. Iti akshepa. The akshepa is not Puravaksha, but it is a possible counterpoint. Kim lakshanam. So kim lakshanam, that's an akshepa. Kim lakshanam punastad Brahma. It's an akshepa. And here, Revered Swami, Bharati Swamiji, yes, then this Adhikarana, Vaiyasika Nyayamala. Lakshanam Brahmano Nasti Kim Vasti. So this is the topic of discussion in this Adhikarana. Whether Brahman has got a Lakshana or not. The reason is, there are so many views with regard to what Brahman is. We already discussed with Pratipatti. In the last few lines of the Bhashyam we already discussed. There are, see, Natat Vishesham Prati Vipratipattehi Dehamatram Chaitanya Visishtam Atma Iti Prakrita Janaga, etc. It's a long paragraph. We already discussed that. So this Vipratipatti is the logical foundation, the logical explanation for this akshepa. So it was stated by the Siddhantin that Brahman is, if you look at it, Nitya Mukta Swabhava and so on. Nitya Shuddha Buddha Mukta Swabhava, etc. But what we find in this world is all Jada or Anitya. So how do we understand, how do we realize, how do we do vichara of Brahman? Because to do vichara, or even for what you call the jijñāsa, if you take literally, we need something that we already know in order to make an inquiry into something that we do not know. We cannot do vichara, we cannot make an inquiry with a vacuum. So when we try to understand something that we still do not know, we begin our inquiry with what we know and we try to connect what we already know to something that we do not know. To understand it is Rajju, first of all you should see an object there, which you mistake to be a sarpa. And then when you find out, with the help of light, that it is not sarpa, then only you realize it is Rajju. So you have to see Suptika first, then only, and then you mistake it for Rajada. Without seeing Suptika, you won't have any Brahma. So Brahma then is an Adhisthana. Adhisthana for this Jagat itself. This is an Anumana, but not Anumana of the Nayayika Vaisheshika tradition. That will find soon. There is an Anumana involved, but that's not Anumana of Nayayikas. Because Nayayikas do Anumana based on Anumana. But Advaitics do Anumana based on Sruti, where the Anumana is agreeable or in accordance with the Sruti, that Anumana of Nyaya is accepted, not otherwise. So here the questioning is this. What we see is Anitya, Ashuddha, etc. This Jagat. So how do we realize that? Where is Lakshana and Pramana? That's the question. So Lakshanam Brahmano Nasti Adva Asti. This is the discussion. Purvapakshi says Nahi Vidyate. There is really no definition as its Nirvachana or Lakshana. Because the world that we see, its origin, etc., are not in any way linked or connected to Brahman. And then if you talk about Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam, Brahma, etc., that is something that we actually do not know. So, Janmadehi, I mean, Janmasthiti Bhangam, its meaning here. Anyanishtatvad. There is no connection with Brahman. See, remember, Sarpa has connection with Rajju because Sarpa itself is Rajju. As Sarpa it is unreal, as Rajju it is real. Only Sarpa Buddhi has to be removed. You are seeing Rajju only. Actually, when we see this world, we are seeing Brahman only. But that's only from the higher standpoint. When you don't see the Amarupa, actually Brahman only. That's what when Pramada, Prameya, Pramanam all disappear, then it is the same reality. So that is why Janmadehi Anyanishtatvat Satyadescha Aprasiddhitaha Satyam Jnanam Anandam Brahma Satyam Jnanam, all these are not directly known or understood. Brahmanishtam, so then the Siddhartha Bhashyam says, it's not correct. Brahmanishtam karanatvam syad lakshyam srut bhujangavat. So just as Rajju, for Rajju, Sarpa is Lakshana. For Rajju, Sarpa is Lakshana. Similarly, Brahman also has got Lakshana. Brahmanishtam karanam syad lakshyam srut bhujangavat. Laukikaniva satyadini akhandam lakshyandija. So Satyam, Jnanam, etc. These are all lakshayanti, means pointing a finger. You are pointing a finger, you are directing to the reality. Satyam, Jnanam, Anandam, Brahma, etc. So Sarpa is Lakshanam for Rajju. This Siddhanti says. So this is the background. Now we will begin the Bhashyam. So let's discuss here. So Vaiyasika Nyayamala need not be followed because it's only Adhikarana Lakshanas explained here. So Brahma Jnashidevi Muktam Kim Lakshanam Purasta Brahmedi Aha Bhagavad Bhashyadaya Janmadesya Yataha etc. Vakishesha Tad Brahma Janmadis Asya Yataha Tad Brahma. Very Vakishesha Pratyahara. So there are a few things here. Janma Utpatti Adihi Asya Idi Tadguna Samvijnana Bahuvrihi Janma Sthiti Bhangam Samasartha Janmanaha cha Adityum Sudhi Nirdesha Apeksham Vastuvutta Apekshaha cha Sudhi Nirdesha Tavat Yatuva Imani Budhani Jayindi Idi Asmin Vakye Janmasthiti Pralayanam Kramadarshanaad Vastuvuttamam Api Janmana Labdasattagasya Dharmidha Sthiti Pralaya Sambhavat. Now here is an important point that is from Vyakarana. This that is it is from the Bahuvrihi Samasa. See, Avi Bhava Tunda Tatpurusha and Bahuvrihi. So Bahuvrihi, according to Panini, it is Anyapadartha Pramana, that is the definition of Panini. So Janmadi is Samasta Padam. Anega Manyapadarthe, that is Panini, the second Adhyaya. So it's always Anyapadartha. But there are two types of Bahuvrihi in this context. One is Tadguna Samvijnana Bahuvrihi, the other is Atadguna Samvijnana Bahuvrihi. So normally, for example, Pidam Ambaram Yasya Saha, when you call Pidam Brahmanaya, Lord Krishna's name, or Chitragum Anaya. These are classical examples given in other important works in Vyakarana. So normally these are used in the Kaumudi and other places. So the same is normally used by commentators to explain this. The same thing, like the Jusapapranti, etc. Now, the meaning is Janmadi, that for which Janma is Adi. What is that for which Janma is Adi, the beginning? Sthiti and Bhanga. So Janma is left out here. So, Pidam Ambaram Yasya Saha. The gentleman with is wearing this yellow cloth is the implication. If you ask somebody Pidambaram Anaya, the person's proper name, but his parents are given is Pidambaram. That he may be dressed in black suit, but still you may ask Pidambaram Anaya, bring Pidambara. So you don't see any Pidam Ambaram coming along with him. He is coming in black suit. So yellow color and yellow color cloth are not included here. So it is Adadguna Samvijnana. That means the gunas or visheshanas are not included in the implied meaning. So Pidambaram, etc. These are some of the examples where the components, the gunas, Ghadaga are not included. Ghadapadarthas are Chitragu, for example, cows with different colors, different characteristics. And Lord Krishna is a cowherd, and different cows, different colors, so it's called Chitragu. So here the cows are not included, different colors are not included, yellow color is not included. Lord Krishna is coming, Pidambara is coming. Or Pidambara may be the name of a person who never wears yellow clothes. This is Atadguna Samvijnana Bahuvrihi. And Shankaracharya says, here it is Tadguna Samvijnana Bahuvrihi, where Janma should be included. If Janma is excluded as in Atadguna Samvijnana Bahuvrihi, then Etova imani budhani jayante yena jatani jivanti yet prayinda visam visanti. That Sudhivakya cannot be integrated into this context. So you have to remember the entire Brahma Sutras. It is the Suddhi Vakyas, Vedanta Vakyas, which are being taken as pramana, explained and interpreted. So the Bhashya should be in accordance with the spirit of the Vedanta Vakyas. So Tadguna Samvikana Bahuriki is to be accepted here. Because of Suddhi Pramana. Vituvai mani Budani Jayandi, Yena Jatani Jivandi, Epprende Visambisandi. Because Janma is the first thing. And this Sthiti and Bhanga come. Vituvai Yena Jatani Jivandi, Epprende Visambisandi. So there are examples for this Tadguna Samvikana Bahuriki also. Labbakarnam Manaya means, Labbakarnam is the name of donkey because it's long ears. So when you bring Labbakarnam, you're bringing long ears also. You cannot separate long ears from Labbakarna. A donkey is an animal with long ears. So like that, Janma is to be included just like long years of Labbakarna are to be included. They cannot be separated. It means Janma, Ulpatti, Sthiti, Nasha should be taken the meaning here. Tasya gunani tesham samvijnanam kriyanyudaya jnanam yatra tat tadguna samvijnanam nirvajanam. So this is meaning. Tasya gunani tesham samvijnanam kriyanyudaya. See, all these are relevant when you do anvaya with a kriya, anaya, etc. So that's why Janma, Utpatti, Adi, Asya iti Tadguna Samvijnano Bhagavrihi. The origin from where this Janma, Sthiti and Bhanga of this Prapancha emerge, where they exist, where they get dissolved into, that is Brahma, Tad Brahma, so Bhavrihi, Tad Guna Samvijnana Bhavrihi, Tad Brahma, Ivakisesha. So Janma, Utpatti, Adihi, Asya iti, Tad Guna Samvijnana Bhavrihi. Janma, Sthiti, Bhanga, that's the meaning, the Samasartha of Janmadi, Samasartha. Janmanascha Aditvam, Sruti Nirdesha Apeksham. Why Janma should come first? Why should? Now remember, this is, unless we understand the actual structure of a classical bhashya, we may not be able to appreciate. You remember, where, first of all, the bhashyakara should explain every word. Sutrartho varnide yatra. Then Padam Sutranusaribhi, in the chronological order. And then the Bhashyakara will make a statement. So Padani is a varninti. Then he has to substantiate and he has to explain logically, explain the logic of his own statements. That's why Bhashyakara is explaining. So Janmanascha Adittam Sruti Nirdesapeksham. So at the end of these paragraphs you find Nyaya is accepted, but Nyaya only in accordance with the Sruti. So Sruti should be first of all in agreement with the opinions of the Bhashyakara. Janmanascha Adittum Sruti Nirdesha Apeksham. Otherwise you could take Adat Guna Samvijnana Bhuvrihi, which is a classical Bhuvrihi Samasa, Anyapadartha Pradhana. Gunas, components need not be taken in order to understand the meaning. Pidambaram. The gentleman's name is Pidambara, not necessarily Krishna. Suppose the same thing can be Tadguna both, Suppose a man for a drama is playing is dressed up Pidambara. That is not name. There are many people wearing different clothes. You may say Pidambara Marim, that fellow, it is wearing yellow clothes, not Lord Krishna. In that context, it could be either Tadguna or Tadguna. So in the specific context, it is Tadguna Samvijnana Sambrahvriti, not Atadguna Samvijnana Brahvriti. Why? Because of Sruti Nirdesha Apeksham. Janma should be included. And for Janma to be included, it should be Tadguna Samvijnana Brahvriti. Is Tadguna Samvijnana Brahvriti is not taken, if you take Atadguna Samvijnana Brahvriti, then Janma Adi Yasya Saha. What is that? Sri and Bhanga. That which has got Janma at the beginning. But Janma is not included. So that's why Janma should be included. So it should be Tadguna Samvijnana Brahvriti. Then Vastu Vrta Pekshasya. Vastu, I mean that is the actual situation. Because first something should come into existence. Then only it can have sthiti and laya, sthiti bhanga. So vastu vrta pekshasya sruti nirdeshaka tavat. That is also the view, the suggestion of Sruti. Yatava imani bhudani jayante yena jatani jivanti etc. Idi asmin vake Janmasthiti Pralayanam Kramadarsanat in this Taittiriya mantra. Vastuvrittamam api, that is Vastu Sthiti also like that. That is also actual situation. Why? Janmana labdha sattagasya dharmenaha sthiti playa sambhavat. Because something should come into existence through utpatti, that dharmi. Then only sthiti laya come into existence. Because ye dharmena means prapanchasya. So labdha sattagasya. Something which has acquired satta, existence, which has come into existence, which has got existence, which has come into existence. Dharmi prapancha here. Sthiti pralaya sambhavat. So such dharmenaha, dharmas are utpatti, sthiti and laya. So something should come into existence, janma, and then that thing which has come into existence, that is dharmi, will have dharmas, utpatti, sthiti and laya. That's the idea behind. So, of course, there are many reasons for the commentaries. Brahma is abhinna nimitto badana karanam. So, Brahman is the abhinna nimitto badana. Badana karanam and also nimitta karanam is Brahman only. But that is based on the principle that there is no real difference between Karya and Karana. Same Brahman is non-distinct from Jagat, meaning the same Rajju that we later understood to be the real thing lying in the room, the semi-dark room, is not different from Sarpa. So that's the idea behind. Now next one is Asya. So Asya is Shashti. It is Seshe Shashti. Seshe Shashti means Suswami Sambandha. I mean there is a connection. There is a Sambandha, relationship is there. That is Seshe Shashti. Asya iti Pratyakshadi Sannidhavidasya Dharminaha Idama Nirdeshaka. So, Asya, the word is used there. It is the Shashti of Idam Shabda. Shashti Bhakti of Idam Shabda. Asya Jagataha. The word Asya is used, which is the Shashti Bhakti of Idam Shabda, only in the context of something which is Pratyaksha. You don't use the word idam rajatam unless you point with your finger at something that is visible in front of you. This Jagat. because the prapancha is pratyaksha. That's why the Shashti Nirdesha comes. That is the Shashti Vyakti of Idam Shabda. Idi pratyakshadi sannidhapidasya. This is very important. These are all philosophically very, very crucial. In Vakyartha, these are all important topics discussed here. But anyway, we are not at that point. Karya, Karana, Ananyatva Nyaya is meaning here. Because there is no Jagat without Brahman, but Brahman can exist without Jagat. So there is no Sarpa without Rajju, because Rajju is lying in the semi-dark room. Because the color of the Rajju, the way it is curled round in the room, and the lack of inner visibility can create the illusion that Brahma, because of the memory Smriti Rupa, Purvatra, Purvadrishta Avabhasa. Avabhasa itself means no reality. Purvadrishta Avabhasa, you see earlier, the Smriti Rupa comes. There is a Tatastha Lakshana of Adhyasa. So, Jagat cannot exist without Brahman, but Brahman exists without Jagat. For a Jivan Mukta, Jagat doesn't exist. Especially when Jivan Mukta is at that stage of transcendental experience. Jagat doesn't exist. So, Karya Karana Ananyatva Nyaya. Ghatam and Mrit. Ghada cannot exist without Mrit can exist without Ghada. So Asya iti pratyakshadi sannidhapitasya. This thing that we see around idam vati pratyaksha visible. Dharminaha idamanabdesha. So this world, Jagat is sannihita. It is visible, it is there. Now, it is being referred to as this. Idam shabdena. So, asya is Shashti Vyakti idam shabda. So, it can be used only when the person using the asya, jagatha, etc. is seeing it in front of him, idam shabda. Shashti janmadi dharma sambandhartha means so it is Sheshe Shashti. Suswami Sambandha, etc. I'm not going to the tikas and other things because that's not enough time. Now come yataha. Yata is aveya. Sadrisham trishu lingeshu sarvasu cha vibhaktishu vachaneshu cha sarveshu yat navyeti tat aveyam. That is Kashika Bhakti called Jayaditya's well-known book. So, indeclinable as you may call it, doesn't undergo any change. Yataka iti karana nirdesha. In this karana is indicated here. So, what is that? Asya jagataka nama rupa bhyam vyakritasya. A description of this jagat. That is, again, asya is going to be discussed now. That is, it repeats now. Asya jagataha nama rupa bhyam vyakritasya. So this world is manifesting through nama and rupa. Without nama and rupa, there is no jagat. So somebody in the Purvashin asked the question. Suppose you have seen something in a forest, you saw an animal which is totally unfamiliar to you. So, and somebody may raise this question, it's a Rakshevas in dialectical words. You have seen something, an animal, and you don't know what the animal is, and there's no way for you to compare, to use any of the pramanas to understand. I saw an animal, the name of which I don't know. That is a nama for you. Till you understand it is a specific botanical name or biological name, whatever it is. So whatever impression comes in our mind with regard to something that you've seen, that is nama. That is according to Vyakarana, according to Spoda and all that. You can never think of anything without without creating some kind of imagery which is based on nama and rupa. So even if you don't know the nama, the name of an object or an animal or anything that is seen, which you cannot later on recollect with a name, then, well, I don't know what it is, I don't know the animal. That is that expression that you form in your mind is a nama for you till somebody tells you that that's the name of the animal. So without nama, we can never think of anything. Without shabda formation, our thought cannot function. Except in, that is, Antai Bhuvadinam Anantai Mukam. That is a mantra, Vedic mantra is there. The language of the infinity silence, that even going beyond Omkara. Otherwise, everything in this world, we can think only in terms of nama and rupa. Rupa you may not know, but nama, you need a nama to think. Thought itself functions in the language of language. The language of the language means language of words. That's right. So nama rupabhyam vyakritasya anega kartru bhoktru samyuktasya anega kartru bhoktru samyuktasya prati niyada deshakala nimitta kriya phalasayasya manasa abhi achindya rajnarupasya janmasthiti bhangam yataha sarvajnat sarvashaktihi karanat bhavati tad brahma iti vakyasesha. Now, asya jagataha namarubhabhyam vyakritasya anega kartru bhoktru samyuktasya. Karta and bhokta. Normally, now for everything in this world, we will, in all actions, all kriyas, which belong to two categories. One is Laukika, the other is Vaidika in Brahma Sutra context. Well, Laukika karmas, Karta and Bhokta are more or less the same. You do something, you enjoy. Bhoktritvam and Kartrutvam can be attributed, should be attributed to the same person more or less with regard to Laukika karmas. Vaidya karmas are different. That's why to include Vaidya karmas also, anega katru bhoktru samyuktasya. Sadham, for example. You are performing sadha. You are the karta. Beneficiary is your deceased forefathers. So also there are many karmas, Vaidya karmas, rituals, where the performer is performing something for the benefit of somebody else. Shraddha is the classical example, where the karta has nothing at all to do with the bhoktrutvam. If you extend the meaning, you can say the karta also will get the blessings of deceased forefathers, but that is only secondary. The benefit goes to the deceased forefathers when you perform certain karmas. That's why anega kartru bhoktru samyuktasya. I mean, both in the context of Vaidya karmas and also Laukika karmas, which also are guided by Desha Kala Nimitta, Pratiniyata. Pratiniyata means well established, orderly. There are rules and regulations which are Desha Kala Nimitta. So Desha Kala Nimitta. Many karmas. There are specific times in which karmas are to be performed. And also there is a nimitta for the performance of the Vaidya karmas. And also there is a place, Desha, also mentioned here. So, all Laukika and Vaidya karmas involving multiple kartas and bhaktas, which happen according to established pratiniyata, according to established rules and regulations, vyavasthika, deshakala nimitta, phala bhokta and karta, all will have to we have to follow the pratiniyata rules of deshakala nimitta. Kriyabrasya manasa api achindya rajana rupasya. So we are getting a description of this wonderful, mysterious, mind-boggling existence of phenomenal existence, so to speak. Manasa, which is inconceivable. We can't even conceive of mentally. Prapancha Srishti is an analogy according to Yayigas, So, this mind-boggling world in which people perform all kinds of Lavya karmas and Vaidya karmas with multiple kartrudha bhoktatas, again done according to different rules and regulations based on Desha, Kala, Nimitta, and then they're all dependent upon Kriya Phala, the result, which again Manasa api achindya rajanarupasya. It is, you cannot even imagine, you cannot mentally conceive of this universe, this prapancha, which is full of different phenomenal existences, entities, which also include different actions, Lavya karmas, Vaidya karmas, performed according to established rules and regulations, depending upon Desha, Kala, Nimitta, Bhedas, again producing results, and results again influencing people. So this cannot come into existence. Janma, Sthiti, Bhangam, the Janma, Sthiti and Bhangam, the origination or the origin or the existence and the dissolution. Dissolution actually means the effect going back to cause. The sthula going back to sukshma, that is laya. It is not destruction. So frequently in the translations, destruction is the word used, which for an English reading person, for English reading public, students will have difficulty in understanding, because destruction has got an entirely different meaning and implication in the Oxford or Chambers Dictionary. Dissolution may be the appropriate word, because it is going back to cause only to re-emerge as Janma again. So everything going back to cause, the causal dimension at the time of Kalpanda, and when new Kalpa comes, again re-emerging, Janma, Sthiti, Bhanga, again going back and again re-emerging. That will be discussed in the coming paragraph. And in this world, people do different kinds of karmas, Laukika karmas, Vaidya karmas, and so on. Different results, different rules and regulations. This mysterious, phenomenal, inconceivable world, universe, or prapancha, it cannot emerge from some cause, and also cannot exist in some cause, and also cannot dissolve back to something. Sarvajñāt sarvashaktehi karanāt bhavati. From yataha sarvajñāt, from which divine power, which is omniscient, all-knowing. Sarvashaktiman means capable of functioning, doing everything, or making things happen. Karanāt bhavati. What is that origin? That Brahma. Iti Vakishesha. So this is the point. Yataha iti karanadati. So if you have any doubt, you can just take a look at this sentence. Very famous one. Very crucial in this context. Take a look and then we can clear and then come to the next one. Because many of the discussions are based on this only. Yataha sarvajna sarvashakteha karana bhavati tad brahma. It is Vakishesha. That is Janmadi Asya Yataha. Asya Jagat Nama, etc. etc. Description of Jagat. Namarubhabhyam Vyakhatasya, etc. Okay, then we will come to the next one. Of course, here is an important point, remember. This is actually Anumana. But this Anumana is different from the Anumana of Nayayikas. The classical definition of Nayayikas, I mentioned Udayana Nyaya Kusumanjali. He tried to establish Ishvara, but his main tool was Nyaya only. But Shankaracharya doesn't consider Nyaya as this primary tool. Nyaya is okay only to the extent that Nyaya is Suddhi Sammata. But Udayana and others, they use Nyaya itself to prove existence of God. The problem is, Nyaya cannot, Tarko Apradhisthana means. Tarka can never give a final conclusive view, which may be correct, because that any Nayayiga's conclusion can be countered or rejected or refuted by another logician. Logic is a two-edged weapon. It can always backfire. The logic cannot really conclusively prove or disprove anything. Suddhi alone can prove it. Then you may say, what about Suddhi? And there's a point, the entire text is based on Suddhi Pramana. So the Pramanyam or Suddhi Pramana, Veda Pramanyam. So he brings always Suddhi Vakyas to support. Otherwise, the Prapancha Srishti analogy, there is a famous, according view of Nayayikas, Kshityam Anguradigam Katrujanyam. Kshidi Anguradigam. Kshidi means earth, bhumi, earth. Angura means the sprout. So, if you put a seed on this earth and it becomes a sprout, there should be somebody who is making this happen. So that is Kshityanguradigam, Kartrujanyam, Karyatvat, Ghadavat. See, pot maker is bringing all these raw materials, earth, mud and so on, and also his Gurala Chakra has got different instruments which is needed for him to make this ghada, pot. And all these come together, the result is ghada. So that's why Kshityanguradigam Katrajanyam. So Kshidi is the, Angura is the, you do Anumana, there should be a supreme intelligence who is behind all this. That is Anumana. So, if there are ingredients, then there should be a karya. There is a cause, then there should be a karana, then a cause should be there. So, vyapti. So, that is the view or the method of Nayayikas. And Bhashyakara accept Nyaya, but only to the extent that it is totally agreeable with Suddhi Pramana, because Nyaya itself can be countered by another person. It can never be conclusive. Every Nayayika view can be countered by somebody else who may be more intelligent, more proficient in Nyaya. But when you take Suddhi Pramana, then it cannot be counted. So when somebody may ask this question, what about Suddhi, what is the logic behind it? That's one thing. When you take a philosophical proposition, we agree on certain points. So, Purva Mimamsa and Uttara Mimamsa, they have to take that to give primary importance to Sruti only. This is very important. Sruti Pramana is supreme for both Uttara and Purva Mimamsas. So when you argue with Vedantins, you bring your own Nyaya, which is not agreeable to their Sruti Vakyas, then they are not obliged to engage in a debate with you. Because when you engage a debate, you have to follow their own primary definitions. Otherwise debate cannot happen. One person arguing from one perspective, another perspective, that logic, that debate has no place. Now here, it continues the this. Annesham api bhava vikaranam trishu eva andarbhava idi janmastri nashanam iha grihanam. Annesham. So what is Annesham here? So that is a reference to the previous statement already made. So remember this, okay? What is this previous statement? You have to. What is that? Prati niyata deshakala nimitta kriya phalasayasya, etc. So that is a reference. Annesham. All that we discussed earlier, different karmas, different kriyas, different phalas based on deshakala nimittas, and entire phenomenal entities, this mysterious, mind-boggling, phenomenal world, etc. Annesham api bhava vikaranam trishu eva andarbhava iti. It's a very important point. Trishu eva andarbhava. Bhava vikara means sadvikaras. We're coming to that later. That should be read together. Annesham api bhava vikaranam trishu eva andarbhava iti. Janmastri nashanam iha grahanam. Yaska paripathidanam tu jayade asti vatade vipirinamade apakshide vinishiti. Ityadinam grahane tesham jagada siddhikale sambhavimanatvat मूलकारणं उत्पत्तिना स्थितिनाशाः जगद न गृहीताः स्युः इति आशंकेत तद्मा शंकी इति या उत्पत्ति ब्रह्मणः तत्रैव स्थिति प्रलयश्च ते एव गृह्यन्ते. So it's a bit complicated to explain. So all these different entities that we already mentioned earlier, Prati Niyata Deshakala Nimitta, etc., the entire phenomenal world, they all are subject to Shadvikaras. What are Shadvikaras? Yaska Paripathidanam, Yaska's statement. So that is Jayade, Asti, Vardhate, Viparinamade, Apakshide, Vinashite. Shadvikaras already here. Here there is there are different levels of evolution. One is, that is Dharmi Parinama and Dharma Parinama, Kala Parinama and so on. We are not going to those details. Gold can become golden ornaments. That is the Avastha Parinama. All these can happen. All included in these Shadvikaras. Everything in this world, even insect, mountains and valleys and galaxies, sometimes maybe billions of years, they may exist. But they also emerge going through these different phases of after birth existing, then growing, then evolving, then apakshiyati and vinashyati. This happens to everyone. Now, the point is, this is a reference to one important statement, that is Yaska Niruktam, that is the first part. Just beginning itself it comes. Naigundu Kanda. Bhavikaraha Bhavanti Idi Vashyayanihi, etc. Yaska says, Shadbhava Vikaraha Bhavanti Idi Vashyayani. Vashyayani was a great grammarian, ancient grammarian, who lived before Yaska, and we don't know about Nigandugara also, which is again the earlier version of Nirukta. So Yaska is quoting or referring to Vashyayani, who for the first time uh, made the statement Shadbhava Vikaraha Bhavanti iti Vashyayani. Jayate Asti Viparinamade Vartate Apakshide Vinashyati. Vartana and can be of different forms, etc. Iti Vashyayani, etc. Now the point is, everything in this world at the micro level, individual level, an insect, a human being, animals, everything is subjected to these sadvikaras. According to Bhashyakara, these changes coming to existence, then existing and growing and evolving and then decaying and disappearing. This could happen at the sthiti level itself. So, individual sadvikaras are taking place in sthiti of the macro dimension. So the whole existence coming to existence at Utpatti, sthiti existing like that, and laya. Then there's a long gap and again re-emerging. But all these entities, whether insects or mountains may exist for millions of years, insects for seconds or minutes. Human being may be 100 years. So their emergence, their sadvikaras happen at the sthiti level of the Utpatti Sthila Bhanga. Remember that clear? That is why Bhashyakara says, Annesham api bhavikaranam trishu eva antarbhavaha. All the entities in the phenomenon world that we referred to earlier, Padinida, Deshakara Nimitta, Kriya Bharasis, etc. All those entities, their emergence, their existence, their disappearing, their re-emergence, all happen within the sthiti itself. So that's an important point to remember. That is why iti janmasti nashana miha grahanam. So remember, in this sense, janmasthiti nasha should be understood. In the sthiti level of the cosmic existence, many phenomenal entities emerge, exist, evolve, decay, die and re-emerge. One day, everything that we conceive of this sthiti will go back to causal form. That is bhanga or pralaya. So the macro universal level, that's all we can use English language, limitation of language. So that's why here yaska paripathidanam tu jayade astityadinam grahane tesham jagada sthidikale sabhavimanatvad, etc. So if you interpret everything according to Yaska's concept of sadvikara, though Vashyayani is being quoted by Yaska, but is attributed to Nirukta. So Yaska Paripatithanam, Tu Jayade Asti Ityadinam Grahane, if you take it that way, Tesham Jagada Sthidikale Sambhavimanatva. All of them happen, sadvikaras of everything in this will happen with the sthiti level itself. Sthidikale Sambhavimanatva Mula Karanam Utpatti Sinashaga Jagada Na Grihidasyahu. Then what happens is, the actual implication of Utpatti Sthiti Laya, Utpatti Sthiti Bhanga will not be understood. There will be confusion. That's why Bhashyakara is not depending upon Yaska's Sadvikara concept. Therefore, there will be difficulty in understanding. There can be confusion. There can be doubt also may be there. Iti ashanketa. Tat ma shanki iti. To avoid that doubt or that confusion, or that complexity, iti ya utpatti brahmanaga tatraiva sthiti, tatraiva pralayaha cha te eva grihyante. So the utpatti sthiti laya happen in Brahman, the sthiti sthiti, laya, all happen in Brahman only. You cannot say an insect comes from Brahman, you don't say. Insect exists maybe for a few minutes. The mountains, Himalayas, you have to think of maybe millions of years. They are equally within Sadvikara framework. So, but you cannot say the mountains emerge from Brahman, you cannot say. But the real entity coming to existence of the entire existence, so you should existence is much bigger than universe exists. Because existence, if you think Utpatti, is a much bigger word than the origin of the universe, because in its modern scientific physics, the implication is limited. So that's why ya utpattihi brahmanaha tatraiva sthitihi pralayascha teva grihyante. That is the idea behind. There are many other arguments why Bhashyakara did not take Yaska's view into consideration. The problem is, it could be that if you take only Yaska's Shadvigara concept, then everything will have to be interpreted in terms of Pancha Bhautika entities. That is another problem. So there are many arguments in this context which we don't have to go into. The reason why Bhashyakara insists that Yaska's view should not be taken, because Yaska's Sadvigaras happen at the sthiti level itself, including the emergence of the galaxies. We may billions of years. But that also with the sthiti level of the cosmic existence. Utpatti, as I get behind. Now next. Na yadhokta visheshanasya jagataka yadhokta visheshanam ishwaram muktva anyata pradhanat acetanat anubhyaha abhavat samsarino va utpatyadi sambhavaidum shakyam. So now this is the point you can consider. Now you have to yadhokta visheshanasya. You have to go to the previous, the same way Jagataka. Jagataka was already explained here, yadhokta visheshanasya, already mentioned it. Padi niyada deshakala nimitakshesra. Jagataka yadhokta visheshanam ishwaram. So ishwaram, if you mean, then this is already mentioned here. Already in sarvajñā, sarvashakti, etc. Sarvajñā, sarvashakti, all this. Yadhokta visheshanasya. Na yadhokta visheshanasya jagataka yadhokta visheshanam ishwaram muktva. Yadhokta visheshanam ishwaram. What did I say? Yadhokta visheshanam, that means sarvajñāt, sarvashakti, etc. Visheshanam ishwaram. Already mentioned in the same paragraph, where we have padiniyada, deshakala, nimitta, etc. Na yadhokta visheshanasya jagataha yadhokta visheshanam ishwaram muktva. Apart from that Ishvara, who is Sarvajñā and Sarvashaktiman, etc., Anyata Pradhanat, Acetanat, Anubhyaga, Abhavat, Samsarinova, Utpatyadi, Sambhavidam Shakyam. Sambhavidam na Shakyam, should be Andaya. So we cannot attribute the origin, Utpatti, Sthiti, Laya of this mind-boggling existence to anyone other than the Ishvara, who is Yadhokta Visheshana, means Sarvashakti, Sarvashaktiman, Sarvajñā, etc. Why? Anyada Pradhanat, Acetanat. This is referring to Kapila Sankhya Shastra, Sankhya philosophy. According to Sankhya system, Pradhanam Prakriti is the origin. At the same time, Prakriti and Pradhana is Achetana or Ajada. A Jada cannot be, a Jada entity cannot be the origin of evolution, the cause of this universe, logically. So that is refuted. Sankhya is a very important subject here. In the other Adhikaranas, you find elaborate refutations of Sankhya system. Pradhana means the Sankhya's will argue these arguments must have existed during Shankara's time. We had plenty of entertainment arguments with those people who argued that this Jada Prakriti is the origin of the universe. So many of these arguments are included in the Sutra Bhashyam, while refuting the Sankhya view, according to which the world emerges from Pradhanam or Prakriti, which according to them is Jada. Jada Prakriti cannot be the origin of the universe. Anubhyaka, that is Nyaya Vaisheshika's view. According to Kanada, Gautama, etc. Kanada Vaisheshika, Gautama Nyaya view. According to which God is not necessary, not essentially necessary, they don't deny it that way, but it's not necessary. Or Abhavat. Abhava, it means Shunyavada or Madhyamikas. According to them, Shunya is the ultimate reality, which is everything, which is behind everything. And again, Samsarinova. Samsari means some jivas, some siddhas. They may be able to make something through magic, but they cannot create this prapancha. Prapancha cannot be created by them. They may be able to make certain things for a short time. Again, desha kala nimitta, within the limited framework. Not beyond that. Prapancha cannot be created by any of the samsara. Samsara means jivas. Maybe elevated, enlightened siddhas and others. Utpatyadi sambhavidam sakyam. They cannot be the origin of utpatti, sthiti, laya, etc. Nacha subhavataha, that is subhavavadins. Subhavavada is called. That is a view which says it is nature for things to come into existence. I mean, they do not accept the karya-karana sambandha. They say that without any cause, things can happen accidentally. The karyam and karanam are the same. There need not be a cause for karyam. Effect need not have a cause. Effect itself by its own svabhava comes into existence. So in the book called it is called a serious defect called Atmasya dosha, it means. You cannot climb on your own shoulders. So you cannot just say that it is its own cause, its own effect. You cannot be your own cause, idea behind. So one cannot climb on his own shoulders. So Subhavavada is also refuted. Nacha Subhavataha Visishta Desha Karanimittana Ika Upadana. Therefore, all these come into existence only based on certain reasons. That is, according to Karya Karana Sambandha, as I get behind. Okay, so there is some specific cause. This is Subhavadaka Visishta Desha Karanimittana Ika Upadana. That's according to Subhavavada. So it's refuted. Some time, 10 minutes, okay. Now, a Purvapakshi raises an important objection here. Etadeva anumanam samsara vedirikta ishwarastittvadi sadhanam manyante ishwarakaraninaha. Etadeva anumanam. That is, what is that? Janmadi asya yataha. That, tad brahma, that anumanam. That's referred here. Etadeva anumanam, that is, the sutra itself is an anumanam. Janmadi asya yataha tad brahma, that anumanam. Samsara vedirikta ishvara stittvadi sadhanam manyante ishvara karaninaha. And then according to some people who argue that Ishvara is the nimitta karana of this prapancha. And so, and they use the same adhimana to establish that there is an Ishvara who is not a prapanchika, prapancha vidirta, means samsari Samsari Vidirikta Ishvara. A Ishvara who is distinct and different and transcending these jivas who are evolving, living in this world, and an Ishvara who is beyond this prapancha. To establish that, they use the same anumana. This is a Purvakshin's view. Ishvara Karanina means those who argue that Ishvara is the Karanam of Jagat. They argue, actually tell you, this is common argument in all Brahmanic religion, deontology. They believe. Deontology is based on this idea, origin of the universe. The God created, everything is there should be God, there's been supreme intelligence, and that, according to different monotheistic traditions, a God. And also in many of our non-Advaitic traditions, this is Anumana. Of course, they don't use Anumana, they use different scriptures. But the argument is more or less like this. There's a Karya, there should be Karana. Karana is Ishvara. The same argument. There's a reference actually. Sometimes they say this is a view, this is a reference to Pauranikas view. Mostly Pauranikas. They believe whenever these things are happening in this wonderful creative world, there should be somebody, supreme intelligence, who is able to create this world, who may be far greater, who will be distinct and different from this prapancha. If you're not distinct and different from prapancha, you cannot create this world. It should be supreme, like that. That's referred to here. Nanu ika api tadeva vanyastam janmadi sutre. This is the view of the Purvapakshi. Here also, the same Anumana is used in this sutra, that is Janmadhyasya, etc. This is Purvapakshi's view. Na, as Siddhanti said, no. Vedanta Vakya Kusuma Gradhana Tattwad Sutrana. Such a supreme logic, the only spiritual tradition that completely depends upon logic, but still says logic is not everything, is Advaita. So Shankaracharya uses logic at the extreme level. There is not one logician, even Gautama Dignaga, the Madhyama Nyaya, approaches anywhere near Shankara in the sheer logical power. But he says logic is nothing. Suddhi is important. Beyond Suddhi, Anubhuti is very important. Suddhi, Suttya, Yuktya, Swanubhutya. So here he says Vedanta Vakya Kusuma Gradhanarthatvat Sutrana. Sutras are only used for preparing a garland. Sutra means garland also here. So using the flowers of Vedanta Vakyas. So Vedanta Vakyas are flowers, and the Sutra act like a thread that put together all these flowers. After that we can continue next day. Now we can have conclusion. Thank you. We can have interaction.
Right. Here, Janmadhyasya yatah, it has been given Maharaj, Sarva Shaktehe, Sarva Gyat, Karanat, Ishwarat iti. When we say Ishwarat, is it Savuna Brahma only? Then why?
Absolutely. That is true. So the next sutra also Savuna Brahman only. That is true. You have to reach, you have to come to the end of Sadhusuti, Tattvamanaya, to come to Nirguna Niragara reality. Remember, right now, the attempt is going on. You're seeing the sarpa there. You are not gone in search of a stick and light to come to the room. Right now you are looking only, you think it is Sarpa only. The moment Sarpa Buddhi disappears, then only you throw away the light and flashlight, everything. So Shastra Yonitvad also. Saguna Brahman alone can be implied here. But the point is, even while using logic, assuming that is Saguna Brahman, you know in your mind the ultimate reality is beyond everything. Keeping in mind very well that absolute reality cannot be the cause of this world, because there is no kartrutva, bhoktrutva, pramatrutva, anything. Still, when you stand here, when you try to analyze through Shastras, you have to understand Janmadeshyataha, Shastra Yonitva, and other adhirana, something like that. That's why one should read the last lines of Sattva Sutra before beginning the discussion itself. Otherwise you may think we are not talking like Puranas, Sarva Shaktiman, Sarva Shakti, etc. So that's why before you go in search of a stick and light, you should know actually it is only Rechu. So I'm giving an analogy. So, but then this is how people, this is what happens in life. All the descriptions happen at the Advaita level. Vedanta, the Shastram, Shasta, Shishya, all in Dvaita level only. But we are discussing Advaita. But we know that Advaita is beyond all this. Knowing this, we are discussing that. You know what's the advantage of knowing that this Brahman, that is Kodastha Nityam, etc., is absolute reality. You will be fanatical. The only purpose, the only benefit of Advaita is you are living in Dvaita level, but you can live in Dvaita without being a fanatic. The supreme wisdom keeping in mind we are analyzing. Tattwamayananda only, there only, from there only you begin Advaita, really. Shastra Yonita also is only Supreme Brahman only. So it's an important point to remember. Otherwise it's a Pauraniya concept only. But we discuss only Pauraniya concept. But we know, even while trying to explain Brahman as a Pauraniya, we know that Brahman, it is higher reality is beyond all this. That is true. That's why, this mind-boggling universe can be created only by a Sarva Shakti, Sarvajna, Sarva Shakti, Jagata Sthiti, etc. This is the Utpatti Sthiti Laya of Jagat, only from Sarva Shakti, Sarvajna, Isha. Only mentioned here, Brahmana. Means that Brahman only can be like Vishnu for Vaishnavas, Shiva for Shaivas. But the point is, all these are accepted, but all these are different levels of reading that Supreme Brahman. Okay, that's the idea behind. This doubt can come. Okay? Any doubt?
Maharaj, there are some natural laws and also natural constants.
Yeah.
Which do not undergo the Shaktivara. So how do you understand them?
All those natural laws are within this cosmic framework. It is Utpatti Sthiti Laya. Think of what will happen to this universe. Suppose there's a big total collapse of everything. Everything goes back to gaseous form. As you not any physics student will tell you, it's not possible that if there is a cosmic war, the entire thing can go into gaseous form. Everything, There will be a re-emergence of the universe. So,
but Shadvikara doesn't take place.
Yeah, Shadvikara also within that. So whatever you mean constant scientific language, that also within the Sthiti level only. So gravitation or relativity also real, but only the Sthiti level. That's what Bhashyam says. Just like Shadvikaras. So that's an idea behind. So if you're talking about physics, I tell you, You're talking about the constant, you're talking about different things in physics. This calculation is based on the human calculation human being living in a planet, Earth, which is specific distance from Sun. If the planet Earth in which we are living it moves little closer to the Sun, everything will be over. We move little away from the Sun, everything will be over. Very tiny little delicate balance. That's the world is all about. So what about planets which may be farther away from Sun or far, maybe closer to the Sun? So how do you explain this? I can give an analogy. See, in the Puranas you talk about different devas and asuras, devas especially, living thousands of years. One day in deva's life is equal to 1,000 years of human life. That's not entirely impossible. Think of some living beings existing in some planets farther away from the Sun, still going around the Sun. How long will they take to go around the Sun? 1 year for us is going around the Sun once. For them, if they are the planets in which they are living far, far away from Earth, from the Sun, this is not entirely impossible. I don't say, you cannot say it's happening. It's entirely inconceivable. So even the concept of time, you're talking about constant, all these are based on the tiny framework of life on this earth, which only one of the mind-boggling number of entities or planets on which there will be living beings. It's not so. So where do you stand? So you have to remember the sweep, the grandeur of the exposition. On the one hand, it is admitted that everything in this world goes through Shadvikaras. Okay. But even these Shadvikaras, which include coming into existence and also disappearing and re-emerging, all these are included. Existing, the coming to exist, Janma, then Laya, and then re-emergence. These three dimensions are included for all the entities in this world. But this happened at the sthiti level of the macro universal entity. Prapancha is called. So that's the sweep of the Bhashyam. Okay. Thank you. We'll conclude now. Okay?
One more
Yeah.
Right here that Sarvashakti Ishvara is said. And again here Samsara Vetirikta Ishvara Astittvavadinam Ishvaraha, that is also there. What is the difference?
I can tell you. Yeah, that's just imagine. I think I do just now. I finished just now, is it so?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I'll find, it will be here in this text. Yeah. एतदेव अनुमानं संसारी व्यतिरिक्त ईश्वर अस्तित्वादि साधनं मन्यते ईश्वर. Okay, samsari व्यतिरिक्त ईश्वर, that is a concept according to a group of Pauranikas. And what does it mean? This prapancha can be created only by somebody who is beyond and who transcends this prapancha. That is the samsari vetirikta. Vetirikta means distinct and different. Through upalakshana means transcending, going beyond. Such an Ishvara alone can be the creator of this world. That Ishvara is a monotheistic Ishvara. Srishti, Sthiti, Laya, who is capable of Srishti, Sthiti and Laya. And that's the most universally accepted concept of Ishvara in all monotheistic religions, all Semitic religions, and also in popular Hinduism also. That's why we normally Vaishnava, Shaiva, Shakta, all of them, their understanding of Ishvara is, he's not like us, samsara vetirikta, and we beyond all this, who sees everything up above the clouds, above the sky. This is our understanding. So Pauranika views. For Shaiva, Shakta, Vaishnava, all. That is an argument coming from Puravaksha. They are asking this question. Your Anumana, Janma Disyeta, Tat Brahma. This Anumana is not very different from the Anumana of an ordinary temple goer, a church goer. What's their idea of God? God is creating this world, taking care of this world, listens to your prayers, rewards us and punishes us and so on. Who is not like us, more intelligent, who is distinct and different and just transcending all that. That is the view of Pauranikas. Your Anumana is the same. Purvapakshi is asking Bhashyakara. Bhashyakara says, no. Here that we are not started that. Vedanta Vakya Kusuma Gradinarthatva Sutranam. What is the purpose of the sutras? Brahma Sutra is like a thread, act like a thread that puts together Vedanta Kusumas, these beautiful flowers, Vedanta Vakyani, into the form of a beautiful garland. It comes later. Vedanta Vakyani hi Sutraihi Udahriti Vijaranti. So, Vedanta Vakyani hi Sutraihi Udahriti Vijaranti. So, I didn't complete that paragraph, that's here raising this question. So, Vedanta Vakyas are being taken as examples and then in the form of sutras are being put together, harmonized. Remember, the entire Brahma Sutra is nothing but analysis of Vedanta Vakyas. Mostly for Chandogya, then Brihadaranyaka, then from other Upanishads. Udahrita, taking examples. Here we are not talking about one transcendental, monotheistic, all-knowing, all-compassionate, all-kind God. We are just analyzing the meaning, significance of this Vedanta Vakyani. Taking them as examples, Udahrita examples. It's clear to you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You will come to that later. I didn't take that sentence, that's why. That's okay, fine. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.